Welcome to Crimepedia. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I am your host this week. I am Morgan, and with me, as always, is my true crime partner in crime.
Yeah,
It's Cherry.
Hello.
I don't know why I did that as a question. My true crime partner in crime.
That's exactly what I am.
You are.
Yeah.
There is no one else I'd like to talk true crime with.
Good, because you're never allowed to.
Never, ever, ever. How are you doing?
Very good. No news updates this week, which is, I guess, good. We've had no major crimes to report that I know of. No crazy things happening here.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
None here either.
That's really good. Because at the beginning of January, everybody's sad.
Now, I did have a little, I don't know, COVID scare. Maybe, I don't know. So I've been a little under the weather. You might hear it in my voice a little bit today, but negative on the COVID, so can't complain about that.
It's all good. No, all good. Hopefully just a cold, which though you are a man, so it's probably going to be absolutely awful.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, terrible. Men colds are like so much worse than women. Yeah.
I know.
You guys get a bad deal. Yeah.
We do.
Yeah.
So sad.
This week's case is your case, because if you are a regular listener, you'll know that we alternate cakes? No, we alternate cases.
Yeah.
But if you are not a regular listener, then in our podcast, somebody mentioned this to me actually. They said that it's very funny because you just kind of take it for granted that people listen all the time. And I was like, well, yeah, you kind of do. You just kind of take it for granted that people you're talking to are regular listeners. So if you're new to the podcast, hello, and thank you for joining us. We alternate our cases every week. So this week is Morgan's case, in which he will give us his case. And I just chip in when I can. And next week will be my case, and it sort of swaps around. So it is quite good because Morgan's based obviously in America, and we get a lot of overseas cases. I'm here. And so I bring you all the European ones. And I've got some exciting news for you. We have got some cases coming up from Europe that are ongoing cases at the moment. So, you know that I love my cold cases, and I always like to work on cold cases, which I do a lot of. But there are a few recently that have been brought to my attention by some family members and some different people that are current cases now that perhaps we can help with. So there will be some current cases coming up in sort of January, February time.
I know of at least one. It's really interesting, so I can't wait until we go over that.
Yeah, it'll be good. So look out for those.
But this week's case, we have a case that's coming from Canada. And I just want to give a warning to our listeners. This is a trigger warning. This is a tough case. It's involved a 10-year-old girl in her kidnapping and murder. So if you are not a fan, or if
you don't handle this kind of thing well.
This might not be the best episode for you. I'm telling you, it is rough. It was rough putting together. It was rough looking into. But this is probably time for you to hop off if you're not in. If you don't want to hear about some of these things.
I know that sometimes it's always difficult doing cases, but it seems to be more difficult when it's children, and we don't do a lot of children cases. Just it's purely like our personal kind of, we don't handle those very well either. We're both parents, and so I think it's even worse when you're a parent. So so this week's case will be a bit tough, I think.
So how about we just jump right into it?
Okay, let's go.
When 10-year-old Holly Jones disappeared in broad daylight after walking a friend home in her West End Toronto neighborhood, it would shock Canada, send ripples of panic and fear throughout the city, and bring a community together. The investigation into what happened to Holly would turn into the largest manhunts in Canadian history, as police would throw everything they had at the case. This is Crimepedia, and this is the story of Holly Jones. All right, Terry. So Holly Maria Jones was born on September 14th, 1992, the youngest of Maria Jones and George Stonehouse's 4 children. Growing up in Toronto, Ontario, Canada, Holly was a shy girl who loved music and hoped to be a singer one day. She was an excellent student who enjoyed playing basketball and running cross country. As a 10-year-old, Holly was a streetwise girl who was eager to assert her independence and show her maturity. On May 12, 2003, after an after-school play date, Holly volunteered to walk her 9-year-old friend Claudia home. This would be the first time that Maria would allow her daughter to walk the route she would normally take to school alone. At 6 p.m., the 2 girls would leave Holly's home on Sterling Road and begin the 6-block walk to Claudia's house on Perth Avenue. On arriving at her friend's home at around 6:30 p.m., Claudia's mother, Teresa, offered to give Holly a ride home, but Holly politely declined.
Oh.
Teresa would then watch as Holly walked south on Perth Avenue towards Bloor Street. That would be the last time anybody who knew Holly saw her alive.
Oh, that's horrible.
Now, it's to some people, it's probably crazy to think about letting a 10-year-old walk where it is. This is an inner city neighborhood on the west end of Toronto. And if you were to go and like look at the area, it is very much an urban setting.
Right.
And to let some, a 10-year-old kid walk that far alone, I think nowadays would be seen as being crazy. But I think with you, if you consider that this is a fact that this is a route that Holly would take pretty much every day to school, and as a kid growing up in the city, you have to have some sort of street sense to yourself.
It's probably a decision that her mum and the friend's mum have regretted for the rest of their lives as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's awful, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I mean, this is like the street that Holly lived on, Sterling and Perth Avenue, were smaller side streets, but this Bloor Street was looks like it's a major street. So it's like
you think they're going to be, it's not a little
traffic.
Tiny. Yeah, exactly. It's not a tiny little back lane. So you'd kind of think that she would be safe walking where there's a lot of people and the people can see her, lots of passing traffic.
Yeah, exactly. Now, when Holly didn't make it back home by 8 p.m., Maria would become worried, of course. She would call Claudia's mother, who told her that Holly had left the house hours earlier.
Oh, no.
At about 9 p.m., Maria would call the police to report Holly as missing. Police would immediately issue an Amber Alert and would dispatch Detective Constable Deborah Vite to serve as a family liaison. Now, I mentioned this. This is actually really amazing. I think a lot of times when we do these cases, we talk about, of course, detectives, investigators, the ones that are out on the streets, what would they say, pounding pavement, whatever you want to make it. But I mentioned Detective Vite because she would spend almost every minute for the next 10 days at the family home.
Oh,
leaving her 5-year-old son and teenage daughter. And so they sent her. So she was there basically to help with the investigation and also speak to the media. But then she would also do stuff for the family, like make them tea, and then just keeping the TV off so they're not inundated with watching the news about their daughter's disappearance.
And shield them a bit from people that want to come and see them. Because obviously when something like that happens, you get loads of phone calls where people are concerned, friends are concerned, and family are concerned. So I think the family liaison officers usually are there to sort of be the barrier between the family and everybody else.
Yeah, absolutely. No, so for her to do that and for basically her to, be away from her kids for that long was just amazing. Absolutely amazing thing to do. Now, as word of Holly's disappearance began to spread, hundreds of calls began jamming the police hotline, offering information. So many calls that it actually crashed the hotline.
Oh, wow.
Now, the following day, which was May 13th, Maria and George made a public appeal for information on television and begged for their daughter to be returned home.
Oh, no.
Holly, honey, our hearts are out to you. Baby, if you can hear me, you know how much we love you. I feel you inside of me, and I'm trying to find you. I'm doing everything. Everybody's working very hard. And whoever has her, I beg you with all my heart, that you keep her and bring her home to her mother and father. You keep her safe, I beg you. She hasn't ever hurted anyone in her life. She's a happy girl. I beg you not to hurt her. Bring her home to us.
Oh, that's horrible.
Very, very horrible. What makes that worse is that as her parents were making their pleas, a man walking his dog on Ward's Island made a gruesome discovery. Along the Lake Ontario shoreline, a man discovered a black bag which contained a human torso. Police would begin a search of the waters of Lake Ontario and would find a second bag near the Canadian National Exposition grounds, which contained additional body parts and a dumbbell to weigh it down.
Oh, God.
Later that same day, police would announce that the search for Holly Jones was now a search for her killer. Autopsy reports would reveal that Holly had been sexually assaulted before being strangled to death and dismembered. As soon as the announcement was made, neighbors in mourning would create a makeshift memorial of flowers, cards, and gifts on the Jones front lawn. Pink carnations were laid end to end down the sidewalk that Holly would have walked if she made it that far that evening. One woman would bring a folded $20 bill because she didn't know how else she could help.
Oh.
Police would immediately believe that the two bags, which held Holly's remains, would help lead to the capture of the killer. One of the bags was a black Lynx gym bag, and the other was a black Cherokee carry-on luggage suitcase. Police would release posters containing images of the bags, as well as a dumbbell. In addition, they would also issue descriptions of two men that were seen getting off of the island ferry the morning of May 13th. Both males were not known as regular riders of the ferry, and both of them were carrying luggage described as being similar to the bags that had been found. So, in order to get from Toronto, the mainland Toronto, to Ward Island, they would have had to take a ferry to get out there and to get back.
And to get back, yeah.
Now that was where the first piece of the first bag was found, black bag. Second black bag, as I said, was next to the CNE grounds, which is basically their expo area. So that piece, that where that bag was, they would not have had to have actually gotten onto a ferry. They just had to throw it into the water.
Just throw it there, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, shortly after the release of the descriptions, one of the men would come forward and be cleared by police. The other remained unidentified. Now, as I was going through this next part really shocked me. Toronto Police Chief Julian Fantino would call for a national sex offender registry. Since at that time in 2003, there was not one in Canada.
Really?
There was not. It was also revealed during the investigation and by the police, this comment by the police chief, that there were nearly 200 known sex offenders that had lived within a 3-mile radius of Holly's house.
Oh my God. 200?
200.
That's crazy, isn't it?
Since there was no sex offender registry, no one in the area
one knew
had any idea.
Wow.
So
there's a huge debate on this, isn't there? I know that people get really heated about this on whether people should be alerted that a sex offender is living in your area, because if the sex offender obviously is on the register, then they know that this person is a sex offender and has come to them because of such things. And I know that people are on the fence about whether or not you should be allowed to know. I personally think you should be allowed to know if you've got a young family, and there's a sex offender living in your area. I know that it can lead to a lot of vigilante stuff, and the argument between whether this person deserves to have a normal life. But the amount of sex offenders that go on to re-offend, they re-offend more than not. And it's such a it's a hard topic. It's a very, very hard topic.
Yeah. And I think in this situation too, I think it is important because with the number of schools just in this general area, there are numerous schools, which means there are numerous sex offenders that are living
in and amongst areas where there's schools and children. Yeah, that's right. I mean, that's just it's tempting fate, isn't it? It's just I don't have any words for that, I don't think.
Yeah. In this case, I don't know how much it would have helped, but I think it was important for people to know, what to look out for. I think it's better to keep people
on their toes. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a sex offender, I mean, let's be honest. I don't think that you can just have the right to kind of like hide out and, in the bushes, wherever you want.
That's right. And that's the thing, isn't it? The argument is that this is a human being and that they can't help it. It's an illness. But that's my whole point, is that this is an illness that won't go away. It's not treatable with any kind of drugs and things like that. Mm. So it's not something that that they're going to be cured from. This is something that this is how they are. It's how they feel. It's how they are. It's something that sexually attracts them. It's however disgusting to us that is, and however ununderstandable. You know what I mean? I don't understand it. I can't comprehend somebody being excited by a child. I just can't see it. I understand people murdering people out of anger. I get husband and wife have an argument, one gets really angry, there's a murder. I get crimes of passion. This kind of thing, I don't understand. And personally, to me, I don't think this is excusable in any shape or form.
No.
I don't think you should get time out of prison for good behavior if that's what you've done, because I just don't. I can't compute it.
I know. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
It's crazy.
Now, within a month of Holly's disappearance, under increasing public pressure, the Ontario government would announce that it would give Toronto police an additional $700,000 towards monitoring sex offenders, which to me, it's a good, nice gesture to start with.
Too little, too late.
Yeah, too little, too late. Yeah, so the one good thing, if there is anything that really did come out of this, within a year and a half of Holly's disappearance, a national sex offender registry would go into place in Canada.
Good. Yeah, that's good.
Now, while police continued the search for Holly's killer, a series of attempted child abductions in the area would put the neighborhood on even more of an edge.
Oh, God.
Now, in one case, a man attempted to lead a 6-year-old boy out of a grocery store, but would run off when the boy's mother began screaming. Now, another man, or possibly the same man, tried to grab an 8-year-old girl as she walked down the street with her mother. The neighborhood, of course, was on high alert, and people really did fear for their children's lives.
Yeah. You'd be scared to let your kids out of your sight, wouldn't you?
No, yeah, absolutely. And I mean, these are just two of the situations. I came across another one where a man had jumped out of an apartment building window to try to grab a kid.
What?
And was scared off. Yeah. It's insane that all of a sudden all this started happening.
Yeah, yeah.
In this general area, this area that they lived in was called Junction Triangle. Like I said, just west of Toronto. And I understand it's heavily populated, but
still,
that's way too many.
I mean,
one girl going missing is too many. Having multiple scares within a short period, that's a major issue.
Yeah,
and this is happening as well while there's a major investigation going on.
Yeah,
this was the largest manhunt in Ontario, if not Canada's history.
Wow.
So to have people doing this still while there's a heavy police presence around is absolutely crazy to me.
Definitely.
At the end of May, police began sifting through hundreds of bags of trash in hopes of finding additional evidence in the case. Also, in what was seen as a controversial move to some, police began taking voluntary DNA collections from men in Holly's neighborhood in hopes of catching the killer.
Good idea. Yeah.
I believe they took samples of over 2,000 men.
Yeah.
And of the people they asked for samples, only 3 men refused to provide mouth swabs and were put under surveillance.
Yeah, exactly. Because why would you refuse? If you were, in a small area where someone's being accused of stealing a child and killing a child, you'd want to exonerate yourself ASAP.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, one of the men was a 35-year-old software developer by the name of Michael Briere. Michael lived in an apartment at 1450 Bloor Street, along the route taken by Holly.
Yeah, on Bloor Street.
Near the corner of Perth Avenue.
Oh, God. Right there.
Now, you're right there. Now, police would twice visit his apartment where he refused to submit a mouth swab, explaining that in doing so would put the onus of him to prove his own innocence.
Okay.
Now, so after the first time, police, of course, were very interested in suspect of him. The second visit, they definitely were more suspicious. So they actually first went to his front door, knocked on the door, no answer. They walked around to the back door, knocked on the door, no answer. As they're standing at the back door, Michael Briere, who was home, was seen trying to sneak out the house and go down a fire escape to get out.
Oh,
where they ended up seeing him, catching him, bringing him inside, and questioning him.
Yeah. Even if he didn't have anything to do with it, I would have done him for like trying to evade the police. I would have given him some sort of something for just being an arsehole and wasting their time when they've got a case that they're trying to be working on.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Idiot.
Now, while speaking to Briere at his apartment during their first visit, 2 alert police officers spotted some items that possibly match evidence that had been found during the investigation inside of his apartment. Green fibers had been found on Holly's body and had likely came from either cheap carpeting or a bath mat. The officers discovered that 2 green bath mats sat on the floor in Briere's bathroom. They would also notice free weights in Michael's bedroom that may have matched the 5-pound dumbbell found in one of his bags. Now, in addition, the top of a sponge mop had been found with Holly's remains, and the officers noted that an empty mop bucket sat in the apartment's bathroom.
It's not looking good for him at the moment, is it?
It is not looking good. Now, during the second visit, once again, police started making notes of things in the house. They had noted that those green bath mats were now gone and had been replaced with these tan bath mats. There was no shower curtain hanging up. So Michael Briere was going through and clearing out his house.
Yeah. Suspicious.
Mm-hmm. Now, police would end up collecting DNA from a discarded soda can in the trash outside of his apartment.
I love it when they do that. Good work.
In addition, on one day when Michael Briere was going out with his girlfriend, they had a little lunch date at Kentucky Fried Chicken, where Michael Briere had a soda with a straw.
Excellent.
So after that lunch date, the police got the discarded straw from the trash to test it as well.
DNA is a wonderful thing.
It is. Now, DNA that they tested from both the discarded soda can and the straw proved to be a match for DNA recovered from under the fingernails of Holly's right hand.
Bless her. What a bastard.
Now, on June 20th, 2003, police would arrest Michael Briere at his apartment and charge him with first-degree murder. He would be held without bail and placed in protective custody.
He shouldn't be in protective custody. He should be put on general population with everybody else and
let
suffer
them have
the
their way with it.
Yeah, exactly. Suffer the consequences. You're going to do that kind of thing, then you need to take punishment for what you've done.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
And being protected in a little cell, to me, I don't think that's justice at all.
Now, after his arrest, police discovered that Michael was still in the process of getting rid of incriminating evidence. It was learned that he had already made at least 5 trips to dispose of evidence, which were the 2 trips to dump Holly's body, and 3 to dispose of the saw and various bloodstained articles of clothing.
They should put him in a cell. They should give Holly's mum a baseball bat, and they should lock her in there. That's what they should do. That's what they should do. They should give Holly's mum the chance to go in there and do what she's got to do.
I can't disagree with you.
No, I know that that's not legal, and I know that it's not, but I bet every single police officer, every single detention officer absolutely hates that guy.
Yeah. Well, I'll get to it in a second. Yeah, I mean, it's terrible. I mean, the way he treated Holly was absolutely disgusting, and how he desecrated her body was absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, and if that was my daughter, I'd be quite willing to go to prison for being locked in a room and doing what I needed to do to that man.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely.
It makes my blood boil. It makes me so angry. It's just, my hands are sweating. I'm that angry. It's horrible. It's just awful.
It is. Now, on the day that Briere was arrested, he was actually wearing the shoes that he had worn during Holly's abduction, and was carrying in his laptop bag a running shoe and a short worn during the killing. Crime scene investigators would find Holly's blood in 5 locations throughout the apartment, one being the wall between the kitchen and the living room. They found blood on a sofa. They found blood on the fridge, on his mattress, and the floor tiles in the kitchen, where they believed that he dismembered Holly's body. Now, one of the shoes that he was wearing when arrested did actually contain some of Holly's blood as well. Police would discover that Briere was a frequent consumer of child pornography, both at home and at his work. Hundreds of images were recovered from his home computer, and police were able to determine that he downloaded videos and images as often as twice a day, all featuring prepubescent girls between the ages of 10 and 12.
Oh my God, I hate this guy.
Now, after his arrest, Briere was told that the DNA found under Holly's finger matched his own. At that point, he would confess to the murder. He claimed that on the evening of May 12th, he was viewing child pornography at his home computer for hours and had become overwhelmed by sexual desire, so much so that he decided to act upon his desire and left his apartment in search of a child. On Perth Avenue, just steps away from his apartment, Briere saw Holly Jones and decided that she would be perfect. Briere would walk past Holly, check to make sure the street was empty, then came up behind her, walking fast, and grabbed her by the neck. He would lead Holly to his nearby apartment, where he attempted to sexually assault her before manually strangling the young girl. Within 25 minutes of her abduction, Holly Jones was dead.
That's the thing, isn't it? Statistics do say that with child abductions, like I think it's something silly, like 78% are dead within 3 hours of abduction. Mm-hmm. It's just crazy.
So with him, but sexually assaulting and attempted sexual assaulting, it doesn't make it any better. No. I'm glad that this fucker couldn't act.
Yeah, I'm glad
that he couldn't work.
He couldn't do it. Yeah,
he couldn't do it.
Good.
But then after he strangled Holly, he ended up putting her in the fridge, and he said that he actually left his apartment for a while, and he hoped that when he returned, that he would open the fridge and that she would just be gone.
He's probably panicking now, isn't he? Because it hasn't gone like it did in his fantasy. That's the thing. It hasn't happened like he thought it was going to happen, which a lot of the time, reading things like this, it doesn't happen as the fantasy. It's a fantasy. In your fantasy, everything goes right. And quite often in cases like this, when they actually try and act it out, they don't take into consideration other things that are going to happen. And that's the problem. And they're just fucking brain dead, to be honest. And I just think... Yeah. I mean, the thing that really makes me angry with this is that his lawyers will then try and give him the defense of And I know it's their job, and I couldn't do it because I just couldn't, but I know it's their job. But they will give him a defense of, he was, mentally unstable at the time, so that he then gets a lesser sentence because then they've done their job. But I don't think these people deserve any representation. It's been proved. You've done it. Mm-hmm. That's the end of it. It doesn't go to any court. It doesn't go to any trials. You did it. We've proved it. Let's shoot you. Simple.
Michael Briere had every opportunity to not do what he did, right?
And he had every opportunity. If it was a shock to him that he did it and he was sorry, he had every opportunity to give himself up. But he didn't. He evaded police multiple times and ran away like a coward.
He lived within 2 blocks of the Jones house.
Oh,
so
wow.
Every day, he was waking up and he was watching what was going on outside of his window.
Outside, yeah. So he had plenty of opportunity to give himself up
did.
if he was sorry.
So it's not like he was able to take himself away from what he did.
No.
He lived with what he did every single day. All he had to do was walk out front of his house and see it. And when I said that there was a makeshift memorial, it was huge. It was huge. There were flowers everywhere. So he saw what his actions did.
Yeah.
And the pain that it caused.
You can hear it in her mum's voice.
Yeah. But he went on every day like it was a normal day. He didn't miss one day of work.
God.
He didn't miss one day of work. He just went on as normal.
It's just crazy, isn't it? It doesn't. You can't even comprehend it.
Mm-hmm. Now, on June 17th, 2004, Michael Briere would plead guilty to first degree murder charge. During the sentencing hearing, Michael Briere stated while addressing Holly's family that, and I quote, "A man who commits this type of crime, you put him away for good. I have failed as a human being."
Damn right.
You have. You absolutely have.
Yeah.
Now, Michael Briere was sentenced to life in prison and is currently serving time at Kingston Penitentiary. He will be eligible for parole in 2028.
You're joking.
I am not joking.
He should not be eligible for parole ever, because this isn't something that goes away. You don't suddenly, grow out of this, or you spend time in prison and then when you come out, you don't fancy children anymore. That's a crock of shit. He shouldn't be allowed out. He should be locked up for the rest of his life. He doesn't deserve a life.
And you can't tell me that this was the first time he had a desire to grab a young girl. There's no way this was the first time he had those feelings.
The first thing he did wrong was viewing pictures and videos of young children in the first place. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing he's done wrong. So this isn't right. No, not at all. Absolutely not at all.
No. We've
just proved it. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but we had a guy that was released from prison around Christmas time here who was put in prison for the abduction and murder of 2 teenage girls. They let him out of prison after he'd served his however many years in prison, and within 2 weeks he was back in prison again because his parole officer was worried that he was approaching young girls again. This kind of thing doesn't go away. It doesn't. This guy's sick. It doesn't go away. He needs to be put away for good so that it's too late. You let him out, give him parole. When it happens again, it is too late. That's somebody else's life he's completely ruined. And not just the one person, it's all the people around that person. Yeah. I don't understand why this is allowed to happen. I don't think you can't rehabilitate somebody like that, I don't believe. And probably we're going to get emails from people now saying that I'm wrong and that people deserve to do the time and then have a normal everyday life. But I personally, and this is my opinion only, I personally don't think so.
This is really, really sad. This whole case.
It is.
I just want to read this one little section. So there was a article that came out on the 10th anniversary of her murder. This was in the Toronto Star, and there's one section that really got to me, and I just want to read it to you real quick. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Holly was Melissa D'Souza's first real friend. They met on the first day of kindergarten at St. Vincent de Paul Separate School, where Holly would teach her how to jump rope. They would squeal through the girls' bathroom stalls, locking all the doors from the inside before getting caught. The pair had that kind of slumber party, whisper in the dark type friendship, exclusively shared by little girls. On cold winter days, the girls would skip home together. Holly bending to scoop up fluffy snow in her mittened hands, then devour it like a snow cone, the glistening crystals clinging to her face. When Melissa's family moved to Brampton in the 3rd grade, the girls kept in touch by phone. Holly singing over the line to Melissa her new favorite songs by Britney Spears. I remember we promised each other that when we were older and finished school, we would get our own place and we would live together. Melissa, who at the time was 20, writes in a long email. The day Holly went missing, Melissa's father phoned home to deliver the news. Melissa burst into tears. The following day, the whole city knew a body had been found. That's when the letter came. After stopping to pick up the mail, Melissa's family sat in the car. The 10-year-old girl holding the envelope, unable to open it. She passed the letter to her mother, who read it aloud. She wrote how she missed me and that she was looking forward to seeing me soon, Melissa says. On one of the pages, Holly had stuck glow-in-the-dark stars, so at night, Melissa could look at the letter and think of her. This was the first and the only letter she had ever mailed to me. At a young age, Melissa struggled to understand why Holly was gone, withdrawing from new friends and opportunities. She turns 21 in September and works 2 jobs to go back to school for film and television. She knows Holly would be there with her, looking for an apartment together, chasing the little girl's dream in the big city. We wanted to be famous together.
That's really sad.
It's very sad.
And that just brings home to you that she is a little girl, a defenseless little girl.
Yeah.
You know, that was violated and brutally murdered by some just indescribable, inhumane person.
It's tough. This was a tough one.
It really is. It really is a tough one. But unfortunately, this happens. It happens, and there's multiple cases that we can report like this.
Yeah.
And that's the really sad thing. This shouldn't be happening anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people shouldn't have the opportunity to do this. There should be, I don't know how, but there should be better ways, shouldn't there, to be able to find people like this. And well done to those police officers and everybody involved in catching him to make sure that he could never do that to somebody else again. And let's hope that when he gets to parole, he doesn't get parole. Let's hope that parole board sees sense and says, no, we'll just keep him where we can keep an eye on him. They definitely do.
They need to. So what's scary to think as well is he actually had the ability, I think it was back in 2018, to get parole earlier. So in Canada, they have something what's called the faint hope clause.
Right.
Which is basically a provision that allows prisoners who have been sentenced to life in prison with a parole eligibility period greater than 15 years to apply for early parole.
Right.
Luckily, he did not get that. But it's scary to think
he could have been out even earlier.
He could have gotten out of 15 years. 15 years would not have been enough. 25 years is not enough.
Not enough. No. I watched I think it was on Netflix. I watched a documentary about people that have been convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment in America, and they did interviews with lifers, and they were saying that when you take away the possibility of parole, it gives them nothing. It gives them nothing to look forward to. And I remember watching that and thinking, hang on, okay, you brutally murdered somebody and you want hope. You now want something to look forward to, for there to be a possibility for you. You don't deserve that. You don't deserve that. And I understand it's slightly different when it's somebody, it's an accidental death and the person has killed somebody accidentally, and that's totally different. But when it's a pre-planned, premeditated murder that they've carried out, when it's as brutal and disgusting as this isn't something that happened by accident. He sought her out. And this isn't something that I think is excusable in any way, shape, or form. And to give him hope, he doesn't deserve hope. I personally don't think. I don't think he needs to have a future to look forward to. She hasn't got a future to look forward to.
He took away the hope that Maria and George had to raise a young girl into adulthood.
Yeah.
He took away the family's hope that they would one day be able to see Holly turn into a young woman, possibly get married, have children of her own. They took away all the hope.
Lifelong memories.
All the dreams.
Exactly.
Yeah,
everything.
Of the family.
So it's not just, and the way he did it. The way he did it is just horrific. And I don't think he deserves a chance of hope. I don't think he deserves a life anywhere. He doesn't deserve to have an ounce of happiness ever in his life, ever again.
No.
No.
It's
a good job I'm not a judge.
It's so fucking sad. It's like I said, when I was putting this together, it was rough and figuring out what should I leave in, what should I take out, because there's parts of this which nobody needs to know about or read about.
No.
It's just
she's
just a young girl who was
walking a friend home.
Yeah. She wanted to be. She was 10. She wanted to, she was starting to get independence and
feel a bit grown up.
Yeah.
And it's awful.
You had to be a little piece of shit and a disgusting piece of shit. Take it, yeah. So sad. And I mean, just think of like her mom and dad, like how the scars that they have to live with now.
This must be soul destroying. It just must be absolutely horrific. Losing your child is one thing, and then losing your child in circumstances such as this is just a whole nother level of pain.
Yeah. Like Maria, she didn't want Holly to walk alone.
No, that's right.
She didn't want to, but Holly was so adamant about it.
Of course.
And as a parent, you have to decide at some point, okay, yeah, I can let them do this.
You've got to let go a little bit, haven't you? That's the thing. And you're always worried. I've got like a almost adult daughter, and I'm always worried when she goes out on her own, and it's like ridiculous, but I am. It's one of those things. It's just the world that we live in today. It's just Yeah.
So that was our case for this week.
Thank you. And that's why we don't do these very often. No, but
I don't think we should do another one of these for quite a while.
No, and send in lots of love to Maria and her family. And I'm so sorry that you've had to go through that. And, it's just horrific. And I really hope that he doesn't get parole in 2028. That's not long away. I hope he doesn't get parole. No. In fact, I think we should all write to the governor of the prison and tell him, don't let him out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just have this weird feeling that he'll get parole. Maybe not in 2028. Not. Maybe not in 2028, but I have this feeling that he'll get parole at some point. It's just that seems like a very Canadian thing to do.
With that kind of crime, I don't think he should ever be let out at all, ever. Never.
No. Well, and if he does, he should never have the ability to put himself in that situation again. He should have zero access to the internet, no access to, and they should put him. You know what they should do? They should be like, yeah, you can get parole, but we're gonna move you to the Northwest Territories, and you're gonna be living within the Arctic Circle in a one-bedroom monastery, one-bedroom cabin, and we'll give you a bow and arrow, and you have to fend for yourself.
Yeah. That's right.
There's your parole.
That's right. There's your chance. There's your hope. You've got a bow and arrow and you've got a coat, and that's it.
Yeah.
Good luck.
You're on your own, boy.
Yeah.
Oh.
Crazy. Thank you so much for that case. And if you're not normally with us, when the cases that we cover are scary and horrible, and so at the end of every episode we like to make you smile a little bit, and we have something that we call the dumb criminal.
Hey, you's a dummy and you's a piece of shit.
Thank you, Captain. So this one, normally mine seem to like be surrounded by a bank or something like that, but this one is not a bank.
Yeah.
So before breaking into an apartment, Joey Miller and Matthew McNelly decided to put on disguises, which is a great idea if you're going to go and break into somewhere. Now, by disguises, I mean that they covered their faces in permanent marker.
Oh, shut up.
No. So, but the problem is permanent marker is permanent. Okay. So after the burglary, the pair were pulled over by police and immediately recognized because of their hair. Obviously. No, not really. Because of their faces were covered in permanent marker. So they broke into an apartment with this, like, you know, facial disguise, and then because they couldn't get it off, they're obviously driving around, the police see them, pull them over. There you go. How stupid have you got to be?
Couldn't you put dirt on your face or anything else?
Exactly. Boot polish or anything. It could, you know, white paint, any paint at all, lipstick, but permanent marker, you can't get it off.
Wear a mask.
Exactly.
Something.
But yeah, needless to say, they were arrested and they were convicted of burglary.
Oh my God.
I know.
How stupid. You're a dummy.
Definitely a dummy this week.
Oh my God.
I love our dumb criminals. They always make me laugh and they never cease to amaze me at how silly people can be. It's brilliant. I love it.
They're gonna keep us having a job, aren't they?
They are. We're going to make a book out of this. All the dumb criminals we can find. Crimepedia dumb criminals. It's Somebody did give me a I've got another one that somebody actually recommended to me the other day, which is really good. So I'll get that one up for the next time, and I'll do that one. So if you've got a dumb criminal you want to suggest to us, just find us on Instagram, direct message us, and we'll pick it up. You can do that, or you can check out our website, which is crimepediapodcast.com, and you can send us messages from there as well. So we would love to hear your thoughts on this case. Is 20 odd years too lenient? What do you think should happen in a case like this? I'd be interested to see what the general consensus is. So find us on Instagram and send us a message.
Cut his balls off.
Yeah, if only we could do that. That would be great. I would quite happily volunteer for that job.
Mm-hmm, definitely.
I'd have no problems at all. So thank you very much for this week's case, Morgan. That was great. So for now, be nice.
And bye.